Hello class, today I'm back with a bit of a somber video and it's very African/Nigerian coded and it's tips on how to survive an abusive household. And the reason I use survive instead of thrive is unfortunately, when you are living with abusers, it's nearly impossible to thrive because you are in the environment that is harming you. So you have to learn how to survive, and then when you come out of it, you can then move into thriving mode. Usually, it's quite difficult to transition from survival mode to thriving mode without the help of a professional counselor, psychologist, or therapist. I am not a certified mental health therapist or professional. What I am sharing are things that I wish I knew, and I'm also sharing experiences that other survivors have published in closed groups and how we're just learning from each other even though we are now in a thriving season. Okay, my first tip is that you have to learn how to emotionally detach from your abusers while you're living with them, because abusers feed on your energy, attention, and emotion. So you have to start learning how to emotionally regulate until you can exit the house. And there are a ton of resources online. Okay, so you don't actually have to figure this out on your own. Literally just Google, and I promise you, you will find resources. Tip number 2 is to document everything. Keep a digital journal if you can. And if you have a physical one, you have to hide it properly. If you have to hide it at your friend's house and literally go there every day to write, do it. Because if they find that journal, they will humiliate you. They will treat you like dirt, okay? Don't try to depend on your mind alone. Writing things down helps. Maybe you can even email yourself, like, today this is what happened. Send yourself an email, copy your friends in it so that they also have a record of what happened. Date everything. Trust me, because when you're ready to exit, you're going to need this evidence. The third tip is to build a tight circle of trust. When you're dealing with abusive parents, they actually intentionally sabotage your relationships. Okay, they will prevent you from making friends because they know that when you make friends, you're going to talk about what's going on in your family. You may not share all the gory details, but at some point, especially when you become an adult, you may feel more comfortable to talk about what happened to you. So they will sabotage that as best as they can. So you want to be sure that you're building friendships that they don't know about, and your tight circle should be under 5, because more than 5, Nigerians especially, they are passing around your gist. They are telling everybody that needs to know that you're getting pummeled and beat at home. Yes, and they're not saying it in a way that supports you. The fourth tip is that you have to learn how to trust yourself. Your abuser's goal is to rob you of your self-esteem and self-confidence. You will have many moments of doubt. Like, you have so much anxiety because that person is abusing you but trying to tell you that it's love or that it's discipline or that you deserved it. And that robs you of your sense of trust. So you have to literally focus. Like, you have to be so present and tell yourself, no, this thing that's happening to me is bad. I didn't do anything to deserve it. You have to tell yourself that as often as possible, so that when you exit, your recovery process is not as painful and as tough, because that cognitive dissonance is so real when you've been through abuse. Number 5, don't expect empathy and sympathy from anyone outside of your circle of trust. And I use the word expect for a reason, because the thing is that even outside of your circle of trust, you will have other friends, you have other acquaintances, and that's all well and good. You have your colleagues. But if your abuse ever becomes public, please don't expect those people to have empathy. Don't expect them to sympathize with you. In fact, some of them will look at you like, what did you do to deserve it? What did you do to deserve it? Yeah, some of them even tell you to be quiet and don't talk about it. Okay, because it makes them uncomfortable, or maybe forces them to look at some things happening in their own family. And don't expect religious Nigerians, especially religious Christians, to empathize with you. In their minds, you went through that abuse for 2 reasons. 1, you were a bad child, and your parent decided that they were not going to spare the rod and spoil the child. So they beat you because you were a bad child. You deserved it. Or 2, God put you in that family to be the light of the family. So everyone is toxic and abusive, and they get to do all kinds of horrible shit to you. But hey, God has a reason and a purpose, and your story is going to be so beautiful. It's going to be so nice. Forget the fact that you were raped by your brother or raped by your father, or or the person that gave birth to you was calling you a prostitute from as long as you can remember. It's for a reason. And God is behind that reason. So don't bother, because what they're going to do is end up making you feel worse about yourself. Tip number 6, learn how to be extremely boring. In the psychology community, they call that gray rocking. Just be flat and boring. Don't share your wins with them. Don't share your milestones with them. Don't even share your challenges with them. When you're going through a bad time, don't even share with them. Share with your circle of trust. Journal about it. But do not give them anything. Do not give them anything. Even if they ask, even if you want to come up with a white lie, do it. But give them no details. Be boring and be flat. Tip number 7, try not to absorb their words or blame yourself for their behaviors. And this is really difficult to do because when they're insulting you and calling you names, it goes deep inside you. You're a human being, right? But you have to fight. Okay, so you have to remind yourself that you're not being abused because you deserved it, but because the person that's abusing you has a lot of issues. Okay, and in this country we don't really talk about these things, so you feel alone, you feel isolated because a lot of people will not believe you. That's the truth. So you have to try very hard to fight against their words. Write down as many affirmations as you can and talk to yourself positively, because your abuser's voice is the critical voice in your ear, always telling you that you're not good enough, you're whack, you're horrible, you're this, you're that. You have to kill that voice and replace it with your own voice, which is 10 times kinder. And my final tip is do your research. Learn all you can learn about what's going on, what's happening to you. Okay, about what's going on in your family, in your household, in the home that you live in. Use Reddit, use Google, literally Google. This is the way that my father speaks to me. What does this mean? I promise you, you're going to find articles on the kind of abuse you're going through. There is such a thing as financial abuse. There is such a thing as psychological abuse. There's physical abuse, which is what everybody knows, and usually it shows. There are bruises, there are cuts, but emotional abuse, verbal abuse, this is where it messes with. It doesn't mess with your physical body, although it can affect it, but it messes with your mind and it's unseen. So a lot of people are not going to believe you and they're going to call you a liar. But please return to the tip that I said. You have to learn how to trust yourself. You are the one going through that horrible experience. Also remember that you are an adult from the age of 18 in this country. Save up and move out. If the reason you're not moving out is because somebody has told you have to get married first, I'm so sorry. It's going to be a rough and bumpy ride. So if you have a job, save, save, save. Your first apartment when you move out will not be sexy. It may not even be the nicest, but trust me, it is a place where you will recover and you begin to move into thriving mode. Okay, because as long as you are in that house, as long as you're relating daily, frequently with your primary abusers, bullies, and aggressors, your road to recovery is going to be extremely long. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next class.